Last night, Leeds United took on Sheffield Wednesday on a fairly difficult trip away from home, and they ended up winning 2-0 in a fairly tight game, as I predicted in my preview video. So I'm going to keep flexing that one for a while. It was a relatively comfortable win in spite of the fact that things early on looked relatively tight. Meslier had a fair bit to do at the start, a little bit of a mistake towards the end, but there was ultimately quality from top to bottom of the pitch, and there's some very positive signs for the rest of the season. Going to dive into the match, run through the defensive positives, the attacking positives, and ultimately what it means for us going forwards. But first, what do you think of the haircut? I was very, very close to going for like full bald, but I've decided against it because I've got my honeymoon coming up in like the beginning of April, and that feels like a bad idea. Anyway, diving into it. Leeds United had a lot of defensive dominance in this match. This is one of the things that I think is most important to our current strong run of form, and especially Ethan Ampadu and Joe Rodon were imperious last night. All over the pitch, throwing themselves around in weirdly different ways. Joe Rodon, for example, is 100% committed, both to the challenges and to aerial duels. He's always going to stick his head in there and make sure he wins. Hence, getting hit on the head twice last night and being cut open. But it ultimately worked out because he did his job and we ended up with a clean sheet. And he's someone that if there's a 50-50, you know he's always going to put himself in there. And you're never going to back the other side of that 50-50. He's always going to do what he can to win it. Ethan Ampadu has a slightly different approach, but it's one that matches up with Rodon's perfectly well. Ampadu has an excellent understanding of the game as a whole. He knows where the ball's going to be before it gets there. And ultimately, I feel like that is a big advantage for him, because it means that he's able to nip in ahead of attackers before they receive the pass, which simplifies things and means that other sides don't get chances in the first place. Fantastic. That's what you want to see from a defender. And in addition to that, it's not just the centre-backs that are playing incredibly well in that defensive structure. They are well supported by the fullbacks and by Gruev. I'm going to start with the fullbacks. So we know Firpo likes to bomb on. We know that Gray likes to bomb on. But what you don't tend to notice is that when one of them is bombing on in a fairly transitional moment, the other will wait. The other will wait to see if we've retained the ball whilst we've pushed up. And if we have, sure, they'll push it with them and add to the numbers in attack. But if they've not, and if it looks like it's any way got a potential of coming back at us, the other fullback will wait a little bit and just make sure that we've got that little bit of defensive shape to us. And it's a similar thing for Gruev. Gruev and Kamara, on paper, are both midfielders in roughly the same position, but Kamara is more of a high-up player, where Gruev will slot in behind and at times form a back three with Ampadu and Rodon, which is massively important. It means that when we are dealing with transitions from the other side, we deal with them really, really well, because we naturally have this numbers advantage. It's like playing with three centre-backs, but when you've got the ball, you don't. You aren't missing that sort of attacking addition from having that midfielder, whilst you still benefit from the defence. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. I had a look through the numbers as well, and our match history recently, and this little statistic was incredible to me. In the league, we last conceded from open play on the 29th of December against West Brom, and even that was really deflected. It was, they had a first shot, it bounced directly out to the guy that took the shot, and he had another one. And even that wasn't Illan Meslier. Illan Meslier was suspended after he got sent off against Preston. The last time Meslier conceded from open play was the 16th of December. And to me, this isn't a sign about, look how good Meslier is in net, which he is. You just have to look at that early save from him that stopped it turning into the Huddersfield match all over again. And the late save that he made, where it looked like he sort of fumbled it a little bit, that's still not a problem because it took a dodgy bounce before it got to him. Those things are going to happen when you're a goalkeeper. But it's ultimately more of a discussion on this entire back line works so effectively as a structure. Since Firpo came in, roughly at the time that it was like early to late December, and since Bamford came in at the other end of the pitch, things have looked a lot more shapely and structured. And you've got those two centre-backs with the support from Gray and Firpo, who both know exactly what they're doing. And you've got Meslier, who's happy with the ball at his feet. And this defence at the moment, I think, is so well formed and put together that you can add or remove one or two of the pieces at a time and it'll still work because everyone knows what their role is. And that's just a good sign of positive training from Daniel Farke. And it's the same at the other end of the pitch. Recently, there's been a couple of players getting a little bit of like stick for potentially not being at their best. Jorginho Rutter was one example, but I think yesterday he was absolutely back to his top performances. He had some little deft touches and tricks and flicks all the way through last night that took opponents out of their shape and was key to us beating Sheffield Wednesday, because Sheffield Wednesday, what they do really well is have a good defensive shape. This is why they barely conceded since they had changed manager, changed structure for a good while. They had a really solid defense, and it was something that was a bit of a problem. So when they've got multiple players marking Jorginho Rutter, that's where he can do his little things like his nice little smart turns and rouletting players. And that takes those two players out of the game for a moment. It ruins their structure, and that's where we get the opportunity to score goals. In addition to that, I think Somerville looked really lively. He was only stopped by a really, really good save from their goalkeeper. I've seen a lot of people say that Somerville should have scored that, but if it's the other way around, we are praising Meslier to high heaven for making what was an absolute banger of a save. But on the other wing, someone that has been on absolutely cracking form recently is Willy Gnonto. He's been incredibly clinical as a part of this side. There was a statistic I saw on Twitter, I can't remember who tweeted it, so I can't credit, I'm sorry, that noted that 6 out of his 7 shots on target in recent away games, 7 shots on target, he scored 6 of them. That's incredible. That tells me that he's looking to find the corners, and if he's missing the goal, it's not by too much. He's someone that is honed in on the target right now, and it's going really well for Willy Gnonto, and I'm really glad he didn't leave in the summer. I like Gnonto. Another player that I'm really glad didn't leave in the summer is Patrick Bamford, because I know a lot of people wanted him out, they wanted him gone. Bamford's useless, Bamford can't finish. Again, he scored a goal yesterday. Either way. And people might say that it's an easy finish, it's a tap in, he was a couple of yards out. Yeah, but he still turned that defender. He still made that nice run. He's still been on the right end of that cross. And getting that cross there in the first place, I think, is a significant part of another part of our tactic, which is having strength in numbers going forward, specifically making full use of the fullbacks, of even at times the centre-backs, to really pressure the other team. There's a lot of times where we'll be on the wrong end of a press and they'll block all the passing options. And one of Rodon and Ampadu will just dribble it out of play. And that ruins their structure as well, because every single one of their players is marking an outfield player, which means that there's a centre-back running through, and they can't just let them run, and that means 1 or 2 of them will move in to make a challenge, and that opens up those passing options. Having those numbers going forward means that we sort of destabilise the way that other sides like to defend, and it provides more and more opportunities. And in this match, it led to a goal for Bamford and a goal for Gnonto, but in future matches, it's going to keep leading to opportunities for, I think, everyone across the pitch to prove that they can just hammer in goals. And ultimately, what does this all mean? Specifically looking at the result itself, it puts a lot of pressure on our top 4 rivals. Currently, as I'm recording this, it's the Ipswich match, so I'm going to have a very quick look and see what the score is over in that one. If it'll load. This, I was intending on being a little bit quicker. It's still 0-0 in the Ipswich match, which puts us above them, and this just proves how much pressure the Ipswich are under at the minute, because they're a side that keep relying on last-minute winners, and although it's commonly said that you can't keep relying on it, they seem to be. But eventually that might stop, and that is pretty good for us. And Leicester also potentially having some issues at the moment as well. They've lost 3 of their last 4. This isn't looking good for them. In addition to that, the connection on StreamYard has gone funny, so my apologies if this is coming across a little bit wrong. I will pause for a second to fix. There we go, that'll do it. In addition to that, we have a huge positive for the amount of strength and depth that we have as a side. Late on into this game, we made a bunch of substitutions. We brought on Connor Roberts, a Premier League low-knee fullback. We brought on Joel Piroux, who cost us, I think, 12 million quid at the start of the season. We brought on Dan James, who has played in Europe several times at that other club. And it just shows that the sheer strength and depth that we have here isn't a problem. Even if we have a couple of injuries, we can make changes. Even if structurally we're looking a little bit bad in a game, we can adjust things a little bit. And in addition to that, the fact that some of our players are looking a bit tired and Somerville hasn't been able to train properly because of injuries and knocks, we've got a very long break before Millwall. Between our match and the game against Millwall, there's 9 days, which means that we can get everyone recovered, we can get everyone into the best possible shape, and we can prepare for what is going to be a tough run-in. And we've also got the international break coming up soon, which is more time to get everyone fit, healthy, and firing and pushing on to promotion. And I am feeling good. I think we are looking completely fine going into the end of the season, but I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you later. My head feels really cold. I don't like it. Should I have gone bald? No. No, that'd be a bad idea. Should I?